So I was introduced to you through Michelle and the team over at Design Hardware.
Okay.
Saw saw the product, and I'm in love with what you do, man. So do me a favor.
Yeah.
Give me the origin story. Start from the beginning. How did you
Okay.
get here? How did you get here with this?
So this is kind of an interesting story. So my uncle, who he passed away it's been almost 7 years now, but he started this company and it's been almost like 40 years now. And he started it really by accident. So this is kind of a funny story. He's an architect by trade. And so this is, like I said, 40 years now. One of his good buddies um, called him up, and he knew my uncle. He had a little bit of money too at this time, and he called him up and he said, "Hey, John." He said, "I've got a buddy of mine that's got this heart pine lumber." And keep in mind, 40 years ago, nobody sold reclaim. It really wasn't even a thing. So he said, "I've got a buddy of mine. I think it was in South Carolina. He's got some lumber. We can turn it into flooring. It's this reclaimed lumber." My uncle didn't know anything about it, but because he was an architect by trade and he's from New York, he's like, "Well, you know what? Let's do this. I can go up to New York. I'll go buy some architects and see if they're interested in it." So they bought this material, didn't really know what to do with it, didn't have anything set up to really run it. But so before they even ran the flooring, my uncle went up to New York and he started just going by architects' places. And they saw just the pictures of it and he sold it. I don't know, he had several thousand feet. He sold it instantly. So he came back down to North Carolina, went to see his buddy, and he said, "Oh my God, we're going to be millionaires in the next week." And he said it took about 30 years before he ever sold it like that again. Never, it was a struggle for 25 years of just never selling, trying to sell it. But, one of the reasons it was so hard for him to sell, because he was a perfectionist and he wanted this to be the most beautiful product. He always told everybody, "I'm a horrible businessman. I'm not even I'm an artist. I always want, I want this product, quality had to be first, always, and like you said, you've seen our product and the quality that it is, and we've always been, that's, even when I first started, I've been working now, oh my God, 26, 27 years here. So when I first started, I didn't know anything about the business. I sort of graduated from college, was bartending, waiting tables. I had dinner with my mom one night and she's just like, "What are you going to do?" I'm like, "I don't know. Doesn't Uncle John have a business?" She's like, "Yeah." I was like, so I talked to him. I didn't honestly even know what he did. And at the time, the guy that was running everything for him was just done. Because like I said, it was a struggle for years, just barely getting by, not even just, never selling things. That was always the thing, was the quality. He imprinted on me. So when I first started working and learning and how to, it was always, no, it has to be quality first, and that was the guy that he originally started with. They went their separate ways because the guy just wanted to sell. It was like, didn't matter what the quality was. So they remained friends to the day he died. They were good friends, but they just had two different visions, So when we first started, the way it was before the internet was really off, they kind of decided, when they split, well, his buddy would take North Carolina because it would be the lower quality. He could sell it easier. And then John would take the rest of the country, really meant New York at the time. And, that was the thing, again, he always in my head, quality. We have to have the best quality. Doesn't matter. I don't care. I'd rather not sell it, if we didn't sell the best flooring out there. And that was, remained true for the whole time. And it remains true today, we do things that nobody else does, and again, it costs us way more to do the process, but that's what we remained, is we're going to sell the best flooring in the country, no matter what it costs, what it takes.
Isn't that funny? The 30-year overnight success.
Yeah, exactly. But it was, he always laughs when he tells that story, because he came down and was like, "We're going to be millionaires," and never sold it like that again, ever. Just flew.
Okay, so here's the question I have for you.
Yeah.
Nowadays, reclaimed is incredibly popular. because of, look, the nature of wood is really interesting. Um, it has to be high quality. And what a lot of people don't really understand the nature of wood, right? So if you have wood that is new and you put it in a warehouse over time, unless you use it, the grain starts to fade and the color of wood becomes, monochromatic, unless you get certain species, or unless it's been used before, or unless it's been sealed, which seals in that grain, right?
Yeah.
So I'm it's fascinating. Take me through the process of getting involved in the business and what you did with it, where the product originates from, and sort of taking this idea of reclaimed wood, and how did the idea start, and who discovered it, which made you realize, or your uncle realize, and later you, that this had some legs. Because what I also want to do is I want to get into the fact that you represent, the very pinnacle of the industry, which brings celebrity, which brings starchitects, which brings the big name designers. And then you have a whole other set of issues that we'll get to. But start with that, and sort of how you got to this point, and how the business developed so that the product could be the star.
So the funny thing with the story I was telling about the heart pine that he bought when we first started, or he first started, that's what we sold. It was heart pine. That was kind of the first thing that came to the market. And the reason that he fell in love with it was just the beauty of it. And, nowadays when people kind of think of pine, they think of yellowy, streaky, not very pretty.
Softwood.
Exactly. But what we're doing, and we still do it to this day when we sell the heart pine, is we're selling the original virgin growth that was here in the United States. So it is the most beautiful. It's hard. It's unbelievable. It's all heart pine. So it's got this beautiful dark patina, and we're talking 13, 14-inch width boards that's just tight grain. So the funny story about it is most of our suppliers of the heart pine are from up north, because what happened is when they took down that virgin forest, 200, 300 years ago, it was all from the South. It literally came from Virginia all the way down to like Texas, was just covered in it. And they basically built the North on this material. We've gotten some joists, and it'll have a marking on it where they've printed 1700, from the 1700s. I mean, just unbelievable. But this material is just so beautiful. So when he started trying to finish and seeing what this looked like when you put finishing product on it, it gave you this dark, 200 plus year old patina that was just so beautiful. And that was what really because, when I mentioned earlier, he always said, I'm not a businessman, I'm an artist. And he always saw himself that way as an artist. So it was the beauty of these things. He had a wonderful mind for the beauty of the product itself. He could see what could be done. Again, not a good businessman, but was just saw the potential. He knew how beautiful and how different this was. So, this company, when we started out, it was all heart pine. That's what we sold. And what happened as it started getting popular, within 10, years or so of us doing this, all of a sudden, all these little companies started popping up, and they were selling, heart pine. Well, it started going from this beautiful product to just whatever they could get out there, and the market got oversaturated, and everybody was selling heart pine reclaimed material. So at that point, and this has now been 20 plus years, we kind of made a pivot to the oak. And what he started doing, and again, we were the first people to really do this, is we were fuming the oak. Are you familiar with that process at all?
No, I'm not.
So so fuming, if you've seen oak, it's, a new oak, a white oak is really what we do. It's kind of a lighter, almost beige type color.
Yeah.
But if you've ever seen European oak, And European oak has got more of a brownish, beautiful brown tone color. Well, what's happened, that European oak is because it's 3, 4, 5, 600 years old, and it's had time to age. And white oak has this natural chemical, tannic acid, in it. And what happens as that wood ages, that tannic acid starts coming out and starts darkening the boards. So what we do, what the European oak has had that time. So if you took like a piece of new oak and you just kind of let it sit for 300, 400 years, eventually that light piece of wood will become dark. So what we figured out with the fuming process, it's an old furniture trick, is that you can take ammonia hydroxide, and we've created these kiln systems where we basically put the ammonia hydroxide to the flooring, and we're aging, even though the wood is already 100, 200 years old, we're aging it 400, 500, 600 years, and we're doing it naturally.
Are you also, so you, at the same time, you're also drying it?
Well, so we fume it first, and then once, basically what ammonia is just a gas. So what we do is, when we have a kiln and we have other systems, and when we have too much going in the kiln, but basically we're just putting the gas to the wood. And what happens is that tannic acid is attracted to the ammonia. That's what we found. So it pulls it out of the wood itself. So what we do is, we fume it first, and then once it's fumed, then we dry it in the kiln system.
So it's amazing. So now you've got this beautiful product, but you also do amazing things with it. There is an artistry to what you do. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, once we figured out, getting this beautiful color to the wood, what people love about it is that it's natural. You look at it, you don't lose any of your grain. Because it's just pulling the color out of the wood. So when we sell it, you don't have to do any staining. The problem that people do these days is everybody just takes a cheap floor, they put a coat of stain on it, and then they finish it. Well, the stain is this really thick oil-based stains. So you don't even see the floor anymore. You don't see the grain. You're just really looking at the stain, whatever the stain is. So the fuming is it's natural. And that's what everybody always, when we are starting out and doing this and perfecting it, and that's what everybody was like, oh, it's just so natural. It's so beautiful. We tried finding other, I always get that. It's so funny with all our woods. I'll get somebody saying, well, we tried to match it up. We tried to find other products. We just couldn't do it, and it's like, well, it's a natural fume is just different. They even make stains now where it's called a fuming stain. But it's not the real deal. It's not, it's not a natural thing, so that really creates this beautiful look that is just beautiful. It's just unmatched.
So over time, the idea of reclaimed wood became incredibly popular. And then you find yourself in competition for virgin material, not virgin material, but once used material.
Yeah, reclaimed.
So so how do you find, so then the pandemic happens, and I'm fast forwarding a lot, but what that did was that hyper accelerated desire for product. How has that affected your business and what you do now?
So that's become an issue because, before pre-pandemic, I had probably 4 or 5 solid, suppliers. These were guys that I called, when I needed it, or they would call me, actually they would call me and say, hey, we know what you like. Over the years, we got to the point, my guys didn't send me stuff that I couldn't use.
They found a barn and you were the first guy they called.
Yeah. And, we were using the highest quality wood. I would, it sort of would be, the guys know what I would like. It got over the years to the point where they wouldn't send me material that wasn't up to what we provide. It had to be tight grain, long, beautiful material. So we had so it wasn't really a problem at that point. I had enough guys, and there was enough material. Barns, mostly where we get our stuff, especially the oak, is out of barns, and they usually come out of Virginia, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Ohio. Those are kind of the big white oak states. So we had no problem getting it. and we hit the pandemic. All of a sudden, you know, all these guys are no longer supplying it. You know, and I have my main guy is in Virginia. He became my only guy, you know, at the point. So it was, you know, and I'm trying, there's a website called Wood Planet where you can advertise if you're selling, or you can ask if you're wanting it. Pre-pandemic, sometimes if I needed stuff and I didn't have enough, I would put an ad in there. I'd get 15 guys, you know, calling me, you know, within a day or two. During the pandemic, I put ads in there. One time I got no responses, and the other times maybe one, maybe two, and they usually didn't lead to anything. So, you know, that became a problem. You know, my big guy in Ohio. So I told you earlier, backtracking a little bit, we use white oak because the fuming process only takes the white oak. Red oak, which is the other big product of oak, it doesn't have a lot of tannic acid in it, so it doesn't fume as well. So I can't really use it, and it's not as nice as the white oak. So my guys in pre-pandemic would always separate for me. Well, come pandemic, they don't have the time or the manpower to be separating. So, you know, and I couldn't take the chance that I'd order, say, 5,000 feet of wood, and I'm now paying a premium price for it, and I get it, and it's all red oak. I can't use it, or it's, you know, say 20% red oak. So now I'm paying quadruple what I was paying before. So it became a problem. It's picked up a little bit now, you know, where my Ohio guy's back now. He got enough people working where he can separate some, but he's still not as productive as he was before because, again, manpower.
And what's amazing too is, and again, I kind of want to circle back on this, not for the purpose of celebrity, but for what celebrity does to a business and for what celebrity does to a product. You have become this premier choice of celebrity designers, architects. I mean, big names. Where did that leap come from? Do you remember who your first celebrity client was? And, you know, how did that happen for you?
Well, it became, you know, it's kind of funny, you know, over the years, we've done very little advertising. You know, as I mentioned earlier, John, you know, went up to New York, you know, to do that sale, the first sale he did. Well, that's how kind of he continued to do it. He would go to New York, and his parents still lived up there in Brooklyn. So he would go visit them, but he'd just go to architect firms, you know, firm after firm, and just kind of, you know, have a few samples here and there. And over the years, we really just became a word of mouth company, you know, and I want to say years ago, and a lot of times we don't find out who the client, we know it's a high-end client, but they don't want to know, you know, let us know who it is. But, you know, I think one of the first ones was Steven Spielberg. We did his for years. This was years ago. But, you know, it's just a word of mouth thing. You know, it's amazing because, you know, the funny thing is we found when we advertised, we did things in magazines and here, it really didn't do us a lot because we just kind of became so high end that it was, you know, the big time architects, the designers, is like they all of a sudden knew who we were, and they knew the quality that we did and the different, you know, it's just different than what other people were doing. And it just spread like that, you know, and they, you know, they would always, when they would have a big, you know, like a celebrity or a, you know, wealthy client that they knew they could afford the, you know, the nicest floor in the country, they would always direct them to us, you know. So it just really, you know, it's, you know, we owe a lot to a lot of the architects and designers because they're the ones that really pushed us to their clients.
So where is the mill? It's in North Carolina, right? And tell me about the mill.
So we're in this very little town in North Carolina, almost in the middle of it. If you know North Carolina, we're about 30 minutes west of Raleigh, which is the capital, and 15 minutes south of Chapel Hill. So actually I grew up where the University of North Carolina is. So my uncle, when he moved down here, like, oh, now it's been 50, you know, when he moved down here, his wife at the time was going to the University of North Carolina. And it just he kind of moved more to the country. He always liked the countryside, and so it's a very little small town. And probably about 30 years ago, he was searching for the perfect and you got to remember, my uncle is very eccentric and an artist, so he spent years looking for the perfect property that he wanted. He had his vision, he was going to build a big mill, but he also wanted a big lake on it. So he found this property, and there was a swamp to it. And everybody told him, don't buy this property. Don't buy this property. You'll never do what you want. Well, it was like a 90-acre old farm. He never listened to anybody, he was very hard-headed and had, his thing. So he bought this property. And, before we had this property, we were in the middle of town in Pittsboro. There was a little fuel house. And this is a very old country town at the time. And there's a fuel house. We just had behind it, we rented space in the middle of town. We had tarps, no covers. And it just, we had a couple machines here, and we did everything there. So we kind of made that transition slowly to this property, which was we're about 5 miles outside of town. So we're still close to the town, but like I said, 90 acres. And then his dream was to have this lake. And we built it ourselves. I mean, there were years when we'd had no work. So all our guys would be working on the building, working on the lake. We built this 12-acre lake on the property. And it's like it goes 20 feet deep. It kind of falls off. I think we had 50,000 truckloads of dirt that we did ourselves. We had, we did everything to it except build the dam. We had to hire a company, had to get the engineers to build this dam. And it's amazing. I mean, it is just, it's one of those things, again, it just, you don't see the vision. And then when you see it, it's just amazing, and we have, my kids are now 22 and 18, but when they were little, I mean, we still go out there a lot during the summer. We had jet ski out there, boat, small little boat, and, have people over, barbecues. And it's just, an amazing thing, when you see it. And the cool thing about it is, so the building and all our wood is kind of in the back half of the property. So when you pull in, and it's just this little dirt road, and it's funny, when I always have trucks come in to pick up or deliver, there's no signs. He didn't want anybody to know that this was a business. We're on basically an old residential road. There's, no businesses on the road. And all you see, and I always tell people, look for these 2 big giant rocks. And this is another funny story of my uncle. When they were building this highway through Pittsboro, and they were, digging the ground, and they would pull these, like, I'm talking boulders, not just rocks, massive boulders. So he went there and said, well, I want these rocks. Well, you can have them. You just got to get them out. They're on the side, and they were so heavy that these cranes would come, and I mean, barely could lift one at a time. And we'd put it on, they're only go on a truck. And we brought them out, and 2 of them now are standing straight up, like right at the beginning of the driveway. So I always tell the truck drivers, it's not like a regular business. There's no signs. Just look for the 2 big giant rocks, make a big turn, come in, and then go all the way to the back, and then you'll see the building. So you come in, and it's just kind of trees on the side. And then you come up a little bit, and then there's the lake on the left. There's an old farmhouse, the original farmhouse on the right. Doesn't look like a business at all still, and as you go down the road, all of a sudden it opens up, and then our building is kind of in the back corner, and we have a 25,000 square foot mill. And this is another funny story with the building. So the building has no sides on it. It's open. It's got a top.
It's a mill.
I'm sorry?
It's a mill.
Yeah. But you go to most mills, and it's just, square building, a rectangular building, sides, close. He didn't want that. He wanted light. He loved light. He wanted his building to get light. He wanted the sides open, which it's beautiful and it's great, especially spring and fall. It's just, right now, it's just unbelievable with the weather nice. Summer, winter, it gets a little hot, a little cold, but that was his vision was to have this open building, where all the sides are open. It's the light, natural light. He was always about natural light. So yeah, it's amazing, man. And we've been here now 25 plus years, about that much time.
Kind of a quirky, weird question for you. I'm just curious. over time, have you found some really cool things to pick out of the wood? Musket balls, arrowheads, interesting carvings. Do you find anything in the wood?
A little bit. We found some, some arrowheads before, but yeah, not much, not much. It's, and I haven't explored, like I said, it's 90 acres. So I haven't done a ton of exploring on it. Where my office is kind of hard to see, you can kind of see back, and my office is kind of in the mid. Again, another thing that he built, this was an old building, and he built plastered. I don't know if you can see the wind. So it's basically has glass all the way around, except for, a few little spots here. But it's in the middle of woods, and my view, I can see the lake through the woods right there. But I have like deer come through all the time, squirrels that sit there. So yeah, we're really in a rural area, and where we're at, and it's really nice. Everybody who comes visits here is just like, wow, this is amazing. Especially when I have architects and designers that are coming from New York City.
Yeah.
This is just like a whole different thing. Yeah, it's nice. It's peaceful. That's what, even the years where we didn't sell anything, and if we couldn't really pay high wages to the guys, but everybody loved working here because it's such a good environment. It's such a nice, peaceful environment, and everybody always got along, and it was just a nice place to work. It still is, even though now we're busy, so busy that it's crazy, but yeah.
No, that's cool. And the product is absolutely beautiful. You've sent me some pictures, which thank you. I love that. For those who want to go see it, check the link in the show notes, which will take you to social. It'll take you to some of the images so you can see. The product is one thing, but it's not just the product. It's what you can do with the product, just to create some absolutely stunning one-off material. It's gorgeous. And I think that's the difference, right? This is an artistic product. It's not a commodity. It's not lumber. This is an artistic product.
Oh, absolutely. And that's, some of the things that we do that nobody else does. And I'll just, you couldn't see it in the pictures, but one of the main thing we do that nobody else does, and it's what's beautiful about this process, is preserves long boards, is because reclaimed, you can have a lot of damage on boards, holes here and all that stuff. So what we actually started doing is what we call plugs and splines. And what that is, so say you got a 12-foot board. Well, you got a 12-foot board, but you got, several holes in it. So if you don't do that, what you have to cut the board, and you got a bunch of smaller pieces. What we'll do is we'll cut off a little piece from the end of the board. So we're using the same board, and we put a plug where that hole is. We've got a router. We'll put a nice circle plug, or we'll do splines, which are like rectangular, or sometimes called Dutchman. And we'll take that piece and we'll put it in there. So you've got this beautiful look, and people love them because it just looks so just fabulous, and so, but the biggest thing it does is preserves long boards. Because I've had so many clients call me, and, other companies, they don't take the care, nobody does that because it's expensive. We have a guy, we have a table set up, and we have guys, that's all they do is once they just put plug and splines all day long. But I've had clients, and they call me and say, well, we were promised these 15-foot boards, and we got them, and they got 3, 4, 5 holes in them. So basically it's 3-footers, and so that's part of the craft that we do, is that we preserve everything. We don't want to waste anything, especially anything beautiful. So, and it's just amazing. Everybody loves those. Another thing that we do is, so the boards, what we always said, their original surface, we always use the face of it, especially the heart pine, because it's got the patina. So it's got natural contour to it. So we're not planing that flat. We're just skip planing it to remove the rough, and then we leave all the patina. We don't want to get rid of that. So what that does, and I don't know if you've ever been in a really old house, it's got like a 200-year-old floor, and you look at the floor and it just kind of rolls along. Well, that's from 200 years of people walking on the floor. That's the natural contour. So what we do is we preserve that. So when you look at our floors, and you can see it in the picture, it's even more amazing in person, but you notice that it's not a flat floor. and it's got natural contour, and we keep that, we preserve that, and we'll even pre-sand, where we actually hand sand the boards. Here's another thing. Most people, when they sand flooring, they have big machines and it's just a flat sander, just flats. We actually have what's called stroke sanders, and what they are is a guy's basically sanding them by hand. He sits there, we've got these graphite gloves, and it's a big stroke, it's a big machine sander with a big belt that comes here, and what he does is he presses down and he goes with the contour of the floor, so we don't lose that. Again, these are all things that are really expensive and time consuming to do, but John always insisted, this is what we have to do. It has to be the best. And, that's really how you get the best quality is you have to really care to do it, and what's happened, and I won't name any names, but some of these companies that we started at the same time as us, and they've gotten way bigger than we have, make, many more sales. I get people calling all the time just saying, it was like 50% waste. The wood is just tearing, because they've gotten to the point where they don't care anymore. It's just get rid of it, get it out. So they throw anything. And a lot of these companies, sometimes now they're so big, they don't even do it themselves. They just hire another company that basically produces the wood, and then they send it out. You think they care what the quality is? They don't care. They just, they're trying to produce it and get it out. So that part of it has actually gotten worse, with I get more calls about that where, oh, this quality was just terrible, and that's what we've always stuck it. It's always been, no matter if we were making no money, making no sales, or having a lot of sales, quality always had to come first.
I love that. I really do. Sam, it's so funny. As busy as you are, it's taken us quite a while to get this time together.
Yeah.
But listen, I am so incredibly thankful for it. I really appreciate the time today. Thank you. And, again, just remember that Baba Antique Wooden Flooring is available from Design Hardware, and proudly. And it's amazing what designers and architects artistically, creatively get to do with your product. It's got to be a joy for you to see it.
Yeah, it's cool, and it's just, it's such a great product. There's just so many things you can do, different colors, and it's just amazing. It's fun. I always love seeing when I can get, it's funny with the pictures. I was telling you, it's sometimes hard to get pictures because our clients are, they don't want you to take pictures, or we're dealing with such high-end architects and designers that they like to, they're always producing books, so they want to keep their pictures. So it's hard for me to get pictures, but when I do, I just love it. Especially I like seeing the whole thing from the install, all the way through. You can kind of see, just the beauty of the whole process. Yeah, it's amazing to see, for sure.
Yeah, and I love it. Sam, thanks for the time today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.